أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله الذي لا يبلغ مدحته القائلون ولا يحصي نعماءه العادون ولا يؤدي حقه المجتهدون الذي لا يدركه بعد الهمم ولا يناله غوص الفطن الذي ليس لصفته حد محدود ولا نعت موجود ولا وقت معدود ولا أجل ممدود أما بعد فقد قال الله الحكيم في محكم كتابه الكريم أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم وقضى ربك ألا تعبدوا إلا إياه وبالوالدين إحسانا إما يبلغن عندك الكبر أحدهما أو كلاهما فلا تقل لهما أف ولا تنهرهما وقل لهما قولا كريما صدق الله العلي العظيم صلوات اللهم صل على محمد وعلى For the love of our beloved Prophet and his beloved progeny, a second loud salawat. For the hastening and the return of our beloved 12th Imam, a third final loud salawat. The topic we'll be discussing tonight, inshallah, is entitled A Realistic Look at the Rights of Parents in Islam. This is something that is very serious. We see a very clear clash between the two different generations within society. There is always a dispute and a clash between the older generation and the younger generation. The older generation, of course, always makes the claim that they have a better idea of how life works. At the end of the day, they have a lot more experience. They've been through a lot more ups and downs. They've seen different eras and different times and different phases. They are on average 20, 30 years older than their children. This is a reality. At the same time, our younger generation also makes the claim that they understand how things have changed in society. They understand the future better maybe than their parents. And so this is a clash that you will find in any society beyond the scope of any particular faith between the older generations and the younger generations. But the reality is, when this dispute comes into the household and then becomes a dispute between the mother, the father, and the children, it becomes far more consequential. You might find situations where children have long disputes and arguments with their parents. Maybe their parents tell them that there's a particular friend they shouldn't have around them. There's a particular friend they shouldn't be spending time with. Maybe their parents at an older age tell them that this marriage that they're going into is not a good idea. It might be something that will be problematic in the future. After they get married, maybe the parents have ideas about what the marital life of this young brother or sister is supposed to look like. And beyond that, there are many different things that we find parents have their opinions with regards to. When you look in today's society, in Western society, in a secular society, the role of parents is almost turning into a non-existent role. If a mother or a father turns to their child and says, I don't think you should be marrying this person. I don't think, in their terminology, you should be dating this person. This young brother or sister, this young boy or girl doesn't really care. This was your generation, your life, it's finished already. It's my life now. I go about it the way I want to go about it. If this parent later has ideas about what needs to happen for the proper upbringing of the grandchildren, the role and the opinion of the father and the mother is almost considered non-existent. You had the opportunity to raise your own children. At this point, the opinions you have about what needs to happen with regards to my children doesn't matter anymore. That was your life. This is now my life. If these same parents get a little bit older in life and maybe from a financial perspective they are in need, you find in today's society the idea is that they should have planned for their own retirement. They should have planned for themselves financially. If they didn't plan financially or they were in a difficult position, that's their problem. It's not my problem. I have my own family, I have my own life, I have my own in-laws I have to take care of and manage. And if you find parents who've gotten old and now need help around the house, they need help to be able to take care of their day-to-day duties, you find a very quick approach of, I don't need to be involved in the life of my parents. The most I will do is pay someone to take care of them. That's the greatest level of affection that a parent might get from their children in today's society. From Islam's perspective, this is alarming and this is a problem because Islam flipped the tables on this discussion. Islam said your parents have rights upon you that maybe no other person in your life has upon you. Yes, there are situations where the rights that your parents have on you and the rights that your spouse has on you might come into contradiction with one another. And in those situations, we have to discuss whose rights will get to receive that precedence and that significance. But beyond that, maybe beyond the issue of spouses, there's nobody else who has rights upon you the way your parents have rights upon you. Quran and Hadith came and said, the heaven is found under the feet of your mother. The Messenger of Allah said, if you want to do good to anybody 3 times your mother and then the next person is your father. It's a completely different perspective when it comes to Quran and Hadith compared to what we see in broader society. Therefore, tonight we have to take some time to understand the role of parents, the rights of parents from a realistic perspective. Is there also exceptions and limitations to their authority or not? Or is it the case that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave parents full rule and full authority? Whatever they say then goes. This is the discussion we have to delve into tonight, inshallah. And we'll do so by posing the following questions. Number 1, when we see a lecture and a talk about the rights of parents, is this a talk that I'm only supposed to show to my teens, a talk I'm only supposed to show to my 20-year-old or my 30-year-old, or is it a talk that also applies to me maybe as a 60 or 70-year-old man or woman who maybe has my own parents around? Or even if they've left this world, are they still rights that they have upon me or not? Number 2, and even more importantly, if I'm dealing with parents in a rare scenario where my parents really are individuals, maybe I can describe them with the word, which is a heavy word, evil. Maybe they have wrong intentions sometimes. This is a rare scenario, but it happens. I get messages of these sorts all the time. If I'm dealing with a parent that truly does not have the best interests of their child in mind, did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give this child any authority to defend and protect themselves? Or did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say, you as a child should sit back and take whatever harm that they are going to impose on you? Number 3, why did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala use the particular terminology of ihsan when speaking about our duty when it comes to our parents? And what is the difference between doing ihsan and between treating somebody the way that they have treated you? Number 4, the great marja' of the Shia school of thought, Sheikh Murtada al-Ansari, why was it that when he lost his mother at an old age, he was crying like no other day? And number 5, and finally, when it comes to the rights of parents and their authority, did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tell us that there are certain limitations to their authority, or did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give them free reign? Tonight, inshallah, we'll delve into these 5 questions with a loud salawat ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajil farajahum. Let us begin from here, and this is a point I have to make clear at the very beginning of the lecture. Yes, this is the first disclaimer. If you're a mother or your father and you're watching this lecture and you're listening to this lecture because the title seems very enticing, My Rights. If you're watching tonight's lecture and you're sitting through tonight's lecture, please make sure you also come for tomorrow's lecture. Tomorrow's lecture is the rights of children. Yes. The same way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave rights to parents, He also gave rights to who? To children. And both of these need to be seen from the same perspective. And at the same time, any part of Islam, if you dissect it and you only look at one corner of it, it will not make sense. And it will in fact look very ugly. It will look very unappealing. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to take the full scope of Islam. There are rights for parents, there are also rights for children. This is what I have to mention to the parents before we begin. To the youth, I have to say tonight, as you guys would say, we have to take the loss tonight. Tonight we have to take the L, as you say. But we will live to fight another day. That day will be tomorrow, inshallah. Yes? A loud salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad ajjal faraja. Disclaimer number 2. Whenever someone sees a lecture that has the title, The Rights of Parents, we automatically assume that this is a lecture I have to go record it, maybe play it on the TV, so my children who are 15 or 16 or 10 or 20 or maybe in their early 30s, for them to watch this lecture. This is a lecture for them. The reality is when you come to Quran and Hadith, you find that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala teaches us the rights that your parents have on you. They don't disappear when you become a parent yourself. You've now turned into an adult. You have children of your own and your parents still have rights on you. And sometimes those rights are rights that you have to carry out in the full form, in a full-fledged manner, because your parents are also there. Maybe they're a lot older. Maybe they can do a lot less compared to what they used to do on a physical level, but they're still there. They still have rights upon you. And I cannot tell you how many times I have seen grown men who are well into their 50s and 60s and they are still impatient with their parents. This, brothers and sisters, is not a problem just when it comes to our younger generation. This is also a problem when it comes to our adults as well. I've seen this with my own 2 eyes. So much so, I've been in places where I see this grown man or this sister who's now 50, 60. They have a whole family of their own now. They speak to their mother in such a harsh manner. I get secondhand embarrassment just sitting there. This is a real thing. So when I see a lecture, it says the rights of parents. This is not a lecture just for the youth. This is a lecture also for me as well. And beyond the fact that maybe I may not have my parents around, even if I don't have my parents around, there are still rights that they have upon me. In Quran and Hadith, what do we read? Of those 2 rights that never disappears when it comes to your parents is number 1, praying for them, and number 2, doing good deeds on their behalf. This is why the Messenger of Allah, salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayhi, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad, he said there are 3 things that a believer continues to benefit from even after he leaves this world. Shia and Sunni narrated this narration, yes? One of those is the good deed that he does, a good custom that he leaves behind that continues to benefit people. The second of those is some knowledge or expertise that he brings about that the servants of Allah continue to benefit from. The third of those is waladun salih, a good child. A child that he raised in the proper manner. Everything this child does, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala writes down reward for who? For this parent. So now I've lost my parents, for example. I have to play the role of doing good deeds on their behalf, number 1. Number 2, I have to continue to pray for them. How many times do we find in the verses of the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us to pray for our parents even after they've left this world? We go to qunut, we say, Rabbi ghfirli wali walidayya. Oh Allah, forgive me and those who brought me into this world. This is a right that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put on my shoulders even if my parents are not around. So this is number 2. Let us move on to disclaimer number 3, which will be our gateway into our discussion. Number 3 is this, brothers and sisters. This is a rare occasion to come across a parent who truly does not want the best for their children. This is rare. But I have to say, unfortunately, sometimes it happens. It's possible. There are parents, for whatever reason, they are in a minority, but they are there, who you might look at the way they treat their children and you just say, this is evil. They are heavily abusive, for example. Yes. They mistreat the children in the house every single day. I'm not talking about a parent who wants the best for their child and has some shortcomings. That's the rest of all of us parents, yes? No, I'm talking about that parent who fundamentally has reached a point where he doesn't care. There are parents like this. When it comes to a parent like this, which is the minority, I want to discuss it because we want to move on to the majority of parents, which we actually have to deal with. When it comes to this smaller group of parents, brothers and sisters, Islam allowed me to defend myself. Islam allowed me to protect myself. There's no such thing as my father, my mother, they get physical in the house and I'm just supposed to sit there and I don't have the opportunity to say anything. No. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allowed me to the amount that I can protect my rights. I'm allowed to do that. That's not a problem. Yes. But this is a very, very small minority of parents. The overwhelming majority of parents that you and I come across, especially in our communities, don't fall under this category. They fall under the category of parents who want the best for their children. Generally, they treat their children in a positive way, but they have weaknesses. So at times he's impatient. At times he yells. At times he could have said something with a lot better tone, but he didn't use the right tone. At times he brings up things in front of the relatives and in front of everybody else. He shouldn't be doing that. These are the issues that our parents have. Okay, let us understand this group of parents and what Islam wants us in terms of dealing with them, because that's the crux of the discussion. Brothers and sisters, the most important thing to understand when it comes to your parents is that you have to understand, even when they do something that in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not the right thing to do, you shouldn't look at what they're doing and say, you know what, he hates me. She hates me. That's why. No. You'll become a parent yourself and you will quickly realize this. The overwhelming majority of times when a parent does something they're not supposed to do when it comes to their children, it's because they have a weakness. They can't even stop themselves. It's sad, but it's a reality. So this father, he didn't work on his akhlaq for the past 50 years. In many ways, he can't help himself. You say, but Sheikh, that doesn't justify it. Who said anything about justifying it? Of course it doesn't justify it. Definitely doesn't justify it. But I'm just helping you understand that when he is impatient with you, you shouldn't automatically see it as he has hatred towards me. He wants to hurt me in this way. No. Majority of parents don't have this approach. Majority of parents cannot help themselves. Majority of parents struggle with their own issues and then it spills over into the family. Does not justify it, but it doesn't mean they hate the people in that family. This is a very important. Otherwise, you and I constantly fall into this victim mentality. I was growing up, my parents hated my guts. They yelled at me, they did this, they did that. No, don't fall into this victim mentality we have in today's society. Your parents had shortcomings, they had weaknesses. It does not justify it. We will explain how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will deal with that parent. So that's a separate discussion. But look at it from the perspective of my father, my mother, they had weaknesses. Sometimes when they were being raised, by the way, they didn't know even half as much as you know when it comes to how you're supposed to treat your children. Fair point? Fair point? They didn't know any better. So this is how everyone else treats their children, so this must be the way. Now 50 years later, you've come, you're living in a Western society, in a progressive society, whatever the case might be. Now you're looking back at your parents saying you shouldn't have done this and you shouldn't have done that. You might be right, but don't take it as this was on purpose. No, sometimes they didn't know better. Sometimes they had weaknesses, they just couldn't help themselves. If you really want to put yourselves in the shoes of your parents, do it like this. Your parents, brothers and sisters, are not some separate individuals that you like fell from the clouds and all of this kind of stuff. No, your parents are you with your flaws, with your shortcomings, with the issues you have right now, plus 20 years. That's who your parents are. Do you have flaws? Yes. Do you have shortcomings? Yes. Do you become impatient? Yes. That's who your parent is. Yeah, he's lived longer than you. She's lived longer than you. The same way you become impatient with people in your life, but if that person turned around and say, oh, you hate me, you say, no, 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 it's just sometimes, it's not in my hands. I know I'm wrong. Same thing here. This is the same issue that we find over here. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala taught us when it comes to our parents, brothers and sisters, our approach has to be the following. The point I'm going to explain now is a bit nuanced, and that is this. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, when it comes to your parents, the relationship that your parents have with me is one thing. The relationship that they have with you is a different thing. Let me get into this. Your father, your mother might do something, it's not the best thing to do. It might be something wrong. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala looks at that deed and He says, this is very bad. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't justify this. This is wrong. But that's His relationship with your parents, no? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala then came to your relationship with them. When it came to your relationship with them, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, listen, I will hold him accountable because he's my servant, so on and so forth. But I don't want you to be going on the offense when it comes to him. It's a different perspective altogether. I want you to be kind and forgiving when it comes to him. But Ya Allah, he did something wrong. Yes, that's why I will deal with him. That's between me and him. It's not going to just disappear. Luqman, the same one who teaches his child to have respect for his parents, is the same one who said, Ya bunayya innaha in takul mithqala habbatin min khardalin fatakun fi sakhratin fi samawati aw fil ardi ya'ti biha Allah. The smallest good or bad deed that you do, it will show up on the day of judgment. This applies to parents too. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows this. But Islam came forward and said, listen, we're going to do something slightly different here. The relationship that I have with him is a relationship of master and servant. The relationship that you have with him is slightly different. Over there, I want you to be a little bit more forgiving. I want you to be a little bit more kind. I want you to take an extra step over there. And the Quran has a particular terminology for this. You say, but Shaykh, that doesn't make sense. However, the status of someone is in the eyes of Allah, that's also how we're supposed to treat them. No. If someone walks into the masjid right now, and let's say this person was, God forbid, drinking last night. He was in a gathering. Na'udhu billah, he was drinking last night. Yes? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala looks at this person. Is He happy with this person? No. Can this person justify what they did? No. Isn't it one of the worst sins that this person could do? Absolutely. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not happy with this person. But did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala come to tell you to go and hold that person accountable? No. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, listen, I will deal with him. If he walks into the masjid, he's not promoting this kind of stuff, he's just showing up as a servant, you deal with him in a kind way. You embrace him. You welcome him into the masjid of Allah, into the house of Allah. So it's possible sometimes Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has one form of relationship with a person, and then He tells us to approach the same person in a different light. This is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did with parents. This parent has shortcomings. He has to answer to me. He's not going to run away. Don't worry, he has to answer to me the same way you have to answer to me. But when you're dealing with him, I want you to be kind. I want you to be forgiving. I actually don't want you to treat him the way he's treating you. I want you to treat him better than the way he's treating you. This is why nowhere in the verses of the Quran did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say, treat your parents just as kindly as they treated you. No, this is not in the verses of the Quran. So what's in the verses of the Quran? The Quran said, وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا. Ihsan means you go an extra step. But oh Allah, he does wrong things. So yes, I will deal with that. He's not going to run away. But I want you to be kind to him. I want you to be forgiving when it comes to her. This is the right that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put on our shoulders when it comes to our parents. Ihsan. Ihsan means my father comes into the house, he says something, he says it with a harsh tone. He shouldn't be saying it with a harsh tone. Maybe Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala hold him accountable for that. But I'm not going to turn around and speak back to him with a harsh tone. Can I speak to my parents and say, you know what, you spoke to me that day like this, I'm not happy. You shouldn't be speaking like this. Yes, you can do that. You can communicate with your parents. There's nothing wrong. You can raise objection in a respectful way. There's nothing wrong with this. But if he is harsh with you, try to respond in a way that's not harsh. Don't treat him exactly the way he's treating you. You don't want to be doing that. Quran said, ideally, ihsan. And trust me, this is a high bar Islam gave to the parents. Maybe only parents have this high bar in Islam. I don't know any other relationship where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said 4 times in the Quran, if they treat you, even sometimes they slightly mistreat you, try to treat them well. It's only parents. Nobody else has this privilege. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, I want you to go out of your way. You want to know what it looks like when you go out of your way, brothers and sisters? I'll share a story from a person who many of us are in debt to. That is an individual by the name of Sheikh Abbas Qummi. Sheikh Abbas Qummi, who's the compiler of Mafatihul Jinan, this book of dua that many of us have in our houses. Compiled by who? Sheikh Abbas Qummi. Many of us, we underestimate Mafatihul Jinan. We're just like, yeah, it's a book of du'as. No. Before Sheikh Abbas Qummi put this together, book of du'as, the du'as you wanted to read, that you and I read nowadays, you had to go find them in like 50 different sources. Sheikh Abbas Qummi went out of his way, yes, and he compiled these in a smaller book. And in reality, when he put it into the smaller book, it spread in the Shia community. Now, that doesn't mean every single thing in Mafatihul Jinan, we fully believe in it and we can swear on it. And no, this was his best attempt at bringing du'as together. Yes, very valuable work that Sheikh Abbas Qummi has. He had other books as well called Manazilul Akhirah, the stations of the afterlife, the different places you go, so on and so forth. Sheikh Abbas Qummi, he says, he was telling his son many years later, after his own father had passed away. He said, one day, my father went to the local masjid. The local masjid had a speaker of its own. That local speaker, his name was Abdul Razzaq Mas'alagu. Mas'alagu is the one who says different masail. Not the most knowledgeable speaker, but he grabs some other book and he explains it. Yes, he's more of a speaker than a scholar, for example. He said, my father went there, and then before I know it, my father, every single day, he's going and sitting, and Abdul Razzaq is explaining to him and listening, and my father is very into the lectures of this person. So Sheikh Abbas Qummi says, days passed by, and I had written multiple books. I had written Mafatihul Jinan. I had written the book Manazilul Akhirah, the stations of the afterlife, written other books. But I never went to tell my parents and my father that I've written all of these. My father was a very simple person. He used to go to the local masjid, come back. I didn't make a big deal out of this. He said one day my father came into the house, and he started to become a little harsh with me. And he said, Abbas, I keep telling you, don't waste your time. I keep telling you that you should do bigger things in life. I keep telling you there's so much more you can achieve. Look, I went to the masjid today. This Abdul Razzaq, he was lecturing. And he was quoting off of this amazing book. This amazing book that I wish you would utilize your time to do something like this. He said, I asked my father, what was the name of the book? He said, this is some amazing book some author has written. It's called Manazilul Akhirah, the stations of the afterlife. He said, my father continued. He said, but I don't see you doing this. You're not doing enough. You need to be doing more. And he went on for a couple minutes. And Sheikh Abbas Qummi says, every time I just wanted to cut off my father and tell him, Baba, I wrote that book. But the thing was, I felt like if I cut him off in that moment, he's going to feel very embarrassed. So he said, I never told him. I didn't tell him even for the rest of his life. I didn't want him to be embarrassed in front of me. See, this is not treating your parents the way they're treating you. His father is being harsh. That's wrong. He's not supposed to be doing that. But he's doing ihsan. He's going out of his way. This is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asked, ideally, from us when it comes to our parents. Yes? Now, you're growing up, you're 17, and mashallah, because now you have a phone and you have ChatGPT and all of this kind of stuff, you feel like you can teach your parents a lesson. So your mother comes and says, don't put this food over there. It's going to go bad. Then you turn around and say, actually, there's a study. It says 50% of the 20% of the 10% is this, and actually you're wrong. Chill. You were in the crib crying before. Have respect when you speak to your parents. Okay, so she might be wrong about this issue. There's no problem. Either find a very respectful way to say it, or if it's something minor, just go with it. If it's something minor, just go with it. No, actually, it's like this and it's like that, and you forgot she used to change your diapers. This is different discussion altogether. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, when it comes to your parents, I want ihsan from you. I don't want you to just, whatever you get from them, give that back to them. Even though that even we struggle to do sometimes, yes? But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, I want you to go one extra step. This is why you find in narrations, people came to the Imams. They said, Ya ibna Rasulullah, what is the right of my parents upon me? So the Imam explained, ideally, you're supposed to be doing these things too. He said, number one, of those rights is that when you call him, you don't just call him with his first name. You ever seen kids do this? Muhammad, Ali, is this your dad you're talking to? This is a problem. Don't call him by his first name. In other words, extra level of respect. Now, sometimes relationships are so close with certain parents, they feel comfortable with the first name. That's not a problem. The idea is extra level of respect. Number one. Number two, he said that if you're walking somewhere, you don't walk ahead of him. You try to walk behind him. Like, Sheikh, these are very details. Yes. Because the relationship you have with your parent is unlike any other relationship you will ever experience. This is the reality of the matter. Number three, he said if they get to a point where they're going to sit, it's better for this son or daughter to wait for their parents to sit. And then they come and sit. Do we do this in our households? No. The mother's working in the kitchen. The father's out working, and the kids just come, they have their food, and they leave. This is a problem. Number four, he said of those rights is that you don't do something that your parents are embarrassed by it, and it gives other people the permission to disrespect them. Now, sometimes people might say something, that's a separate thing, but I'm not supposed to be doing something actively that I know is wrong to allow other people to come and ruin the reputation of my mother and father that they got over 50, 60 years. In another narration, they asked another Imam, they said, what is the rights of my parents when it comes to me? He said, لا تملأ عينيك من النظر إليهما إلا رأفة ورحمة. That you never look at them with a look of anger. You look at them with mercy. Sheikh, there's been times my mother looked at me that way. Yes. Welcome to the world of ihsan. Welcome to the world of ihsan. Ideally, you're not supposed to be doing this. He continued, he said, وَلَا تَرْفَعْ صَوْتَكَ فَوْقَ صَوْتِهِمَا. When you're speaking, your voice is not supposed to go over their voice. وَلَا يَدَكَ فَوْقَ يَدَيْهِمَا. Your hands are not supposed to go above their hands. وَلَا تُقَدِّمْ قَدَمَهَا. And that you don't move ahead of them when you're going somewhere. This is ihsan. Is it difficult? Absolutely. Very difficult. But this is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asked of us when it comes to our parents. A loud salawat, please. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala All right, so then someone asks, well, what are the literal rights that they have on us? Number one, the rights that a parent has on us, which in and of itself falls down and breaks down into many other rights, is this: that in certain scenarios and in certain situations, if they ask me to do something, I have to do it. What are those particular scenarios and situations? Ayatollah Sistani will tell you the following. If there is a request that your mother or father has of you that's really important for them, it's not just a recommendation, it really matters to them, such that if you didn't do it, it would really bother them. Condition number one. And condition number two, when they tell you to do this thing, they're saying it out of your interest. It's not a situation where it's a toxic parent who's just trying to use his children. No. At the very least, it seems like they want the best of my interest. Even if their assessment of the situation is different from my assessment, which happens all the time. He said if these two conditions come, and some of those exceptions that we will discuss later are not there, you have to obey them. It is obligatory for you to obey them. Wajib. So you say, okay, well, I mean, what my parents are asking me, they're asking me to maybe not hang out with this friend so much. But what do they know? They don't know any better. Islam said, does it really matter to them? Yes. Are they saying it for your interest? Yes. Obligation to act on it. Otherwise, I enter into a realm called Aqul Walidain. I enter into a realm of disobedience to parents. One of the greatest major sins that any human being can do. The narration of the Messenger of Allah, the Prophet Muhammad salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayhi. He said, the one who disobeys his parents in this particular scenario where they have full authority. He said the one who disobeys his parents will never feel the scent of heaven. And the scent of heaven can be felt from years away. That's scary. This is very scary. This is what this person becomes worthy of. You say, but Sheikh, what they're asking of me to do, it's really difficult. I don't know. Actually, I don't even know if their assessment of the situation is the right assessment. This friend of mine is fine. They're making a big deal out of it. Well, 2 points you have to understand. First thing you have to understand that I think a lot of children don't understand is this. You don't understand and probably will not understand for the next 30, 40 years of your life actually how much your parents care for you. You don't understand because you've never experienced it anywhere else. Say, my teacher cares for me. No, that's a different thing. My friends care for me. That's a different thing. This is your parents. It's something you've never experienced before. You may never experience again, maybe. You have to understand, when your mother or father looks at you, they see themselves there. That's why the first Imam, when he wrote a letter to Imam Hassan al-Mujtaba, salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayhi, what did he say? He said, وَجَدْتُكَ بَعْضِي. He said, when I look at you, I find you to be a part of me. And then he went one step more. He said, بَلْ وَجَدْتُكَ كُلِّي. You're all of me. Children struggle to understand this idea. We don't understand. Actually, even when you have children of your own, still you will struggle to understand. Because you understand that when it comes to your own child, but it's still difficult for you to understand how your parents feel that way about you. Believe it or not, even at that point you will struggle to understand. They look at you, you're their whole existence. That's the way they look at you, number one. Number two, the second reason why you look at your mother and father, why are they complicating everything so much? Because, Berta, you're looking one step forward, 2 steps forward. They're looking 50 steps ahead. You're young. I'm young. We need maturity in life. That friend of yours today is not a problem. Who said 2 years from now he's not going to become a major problem for you? They look 50 steps ahead. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, in these particular scenarios, you do not have the right to disobey your parents. If these conditions are there, you do not have the right to disobey your parents. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala went one step further. He said, you know what? Actually, there are times where not disobeying your parents are going to become extra difficult. And that's going to bring us to another right that the parents have upon us. The next right that parents have upon us is different from obedience. Obedience is one thing. The second right that parents always have upon us is the right to respect and honor. It doesn't matter who they are. Respect. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said you have to respect them. In fact, these verses of the Quran that we read, by the way, brothers and sisters, the Quran said, you know, فَلَا تَقُلْ لَهُمَا أُفٍّ. Yes? Don't even say uff to them. This is more in the context of respect than it is in the context of obedience. Uff, the smallest amount of dissatisfaction, disapproval. I remember many, many years ago, I got into argument with my mother. Yes? So we went back and forth a little bit. I was very young. She said, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, you don't have the right to say uff. I said, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, I don't have the right to say uff? What is this? She said, you just said uff. That's what uff is. Uff is the smallest level of disapproval. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala didn't say a mother or a father have to be obeyed no matter what. No, there are exceptions to it. But He said they have to be respected at all times. Number 3 of the rights that a father or mother have on me is that as they grow old especially, their financial responsibility, if they are struggling, falls on me. This is a right that parents have on us. Especially when they become old. But I want you to understand the topic of parents from this angle, brothers and sisters, especially if your parents are getting old, because when parents get a little bit older, things become a little bit more difficult. Maybe physically they're struggling. Maybe in certain conditions, cognitively, they might be struggling. Maybe they bring up the same thing again for the 20th time. This is part of growing old. But let me just say this, when your parents grow old, know that you now have a huge door to heaven open in front of you. You have to take advantage of this opportunity. Older parents is a golden opportunity. Because they are the key to the mercy of Allah. That's why the Quran speaks about respecting your parents. And then the Quran said, by the way, وَإِمَّا يَبْلُغَنَّ عِنْدَكَ الْكِبَرَ أَحَدُهُمَا أَوْ كِلَاهُمَا. When one of them gets old, then don't you dare say uff to them. The Quran said this in the context of what? Parents who've become older now. That carries a special weight. That carries a special value in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is looking in those moments to see, now that this parent of his is in a vulnerable position, is he going to show mercy now or not? You want to see what it means to have an older parent and then look at them as the key to the mercy of Allah? Sheikh Murtada Ansari, one of the greatest scholars that came out of Najaf. May Allah bless his soul. He has books that in the Hawza, if you don't study them, they say you are not a strong scholar. I'll put it that way. Yes? Sheikh Murtada Ansari, marja of the Shia school of thought. Yes? Marja of the Shia school of thought means what? Means if you write a line and you say people have to go to defend this or that, people will run. That's what it means. So Sheikh Murtada Ansari, they said every Thursday morning, he used to come to the house of his mother, put his mother on his shoulders, take her to the local shower. Because, you know, back in the day, showers were outside. Then after she takes her shower, she's dressed, so on and so forth, the marja would come back, kneel down, put his mother back on his shoulders, carry her to the house. They said, you shouldn't be doing this. Just get someone else to do it. He said, you don't understand. She is the key to the mercy of Allah for me. You don't understand. Until his mother passed away at old age. When his mother passed away, he started to cry heavily. The people around him came to him and said, Sheikh, you always used to tell us that we should be patient and not to be worried about our loved ones and so on and so forth. He said, you don't understand. I'm not crying for her. I'm crying for myself. They said, why? He said, because it was because of her that so many calamities Allah removed from me. And it was because of her that Allah blessed me with so many blessings. And now I've lost that opportunity. This is a marja. So I've lost this opportunity. You have older parents, it's a little bit difficult. They ask the same question many, many times. Good for you. Take advantage of that opportunity. That's one of your keys to heaven. This is what Islam taught us. Okay, I understand. Now when it comes to the exceptions to the authority of the parents, because at the end of the day, as much as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala took up the status of parents, He also said there are exceptions to their authority. There are situations where their authority is a no-go. What are those situations? 3 situations we will discuss with a loud salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. The first of those scenarios, brothers and sisters, is that typically when a young sister wants to get married, she has to get permission from her father. If it's her first marriage, she has to do what? She has to get permission from her father. This is a right that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given to the father. It's a right of the parents. Our scholars came and said, listen, in certain situations, this right is removed. In what situations? In the rare situation. This is rare, but it does happen. In the rare situation where this father, it doesn't matter who comes and proposes to this young sister. Whoever comes, he says, no, 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 no. They said if it reaches a point where he's saying no, just for his own reasons, no valid reasons. They said in this situation, his right is no longer necessary for this marriage to move forward. But because this is a very sensitive issue, brothers and sisters, I say this to all of our sisters, do not take this route unless you discuss with a local scholar. Because in many scenarios, you might think your parents are saying no to someone for no valid reason, but in reality, there's a very valid reason. A lot of times children think that their parent is just being difficult, where in reality, if someone else comes and looks at that situation, says, no, the red flag is very obvious here. In the rare situation where this father is constantly saying no, 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 for what reason? No reason. Then this right is no longer in his hands. This is the ruling of Ayatul Sistani and other scholars as well. But that's a very particular situation. You have to establish that. And you just thinking that your parents are wrong is not enough. This does not apply when you went to the Yemeni coffee shop, you met someone. Now you think you found your nasib. No, this is not what we're talking about. This is in situations where this young sister is growing older and older and older, and the parents, doesn't matter who comes, no. In those rare situations, Islam said this person loses that right at this point. This is number 1. Number 2, the second situation where the parents do not have a right to obedience from the children is when what they are asking brings about unbearable difficulty for their children. Does this happen? Yes. So now this young brother, this young sister have gotten married. This mother or father, they say, listen, I'm your mother. This is what your marital life is supposed to look like. This is where you guys are supposed to live. This is how you're supposed to come and go. This is how you're supposed to speak to each other. This is this. This is this. And this young man looks at his marriage. This young sister looks at her marriage. And she says, this is going to create problems in my marital life. In these situations, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, obedience to the parents is no longer wajib. Why? Because I didn't like what they said? No, because it brings about unbearable difficulty. Because you have a responsibility to keep your marital life together. It doesn't mean you put your head down and you never listen to their advice. No. It means that if they suggest something and you think about it and you discuss it and you know this is going to create serious problems for me, in that scenario, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said this brings unbearable difficulty for you. This mother or father turned to their child, you have to go become a doctor. Uh-oh. This guy, when he sees blood, he faints. But the mother and father say, no, you have to become a doctor. We're your parents. You have to listen to us. This is unbearable difficulty. He's going to be broke for the rest of his life. It's unbearable difficulty. Second situation is situations where what the mother or father is bringing to the table is going to create unbearable difficulty for somebody. Also here, the scholar said, you do not have to obey your parents in these particular scenarios. Number 3, and finally, in scenarios where what my parents are asking for might be haram. And you know, I used to read this in the verses of the Quran. I used to read this in books of fiqh many years ago. And I used to think to myself, no, that never happens. No, it actually does. So this young brother, he is prepared to get married. He has reached an age of maturity, so on and so forth. He's got his career together. He's got things together. He wants to get married because he feels a need. So he doesn't want to fall into haram. But the parents say, no, my son, first finish your studies and then get your first job. And then after you get your first job, start a business. Then after you start a business, go do your PhD. Then buy a house. Then get your cars. And then inshallah, then you can get married. By the time you finish saying inshallah, certain things might have happened in the life of your child. It might be too late by then. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told him if he has the maturity, if he has the conditions, and he feels like he's in a position where he might fall into sin, he has to move forward with finding a spouse. There's a duty on him now. Now this mother or father comes and say, no, but you know, in our family, everybody gets married at that age. Doesn't matter. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is obligating him. He has to do this. He has to move forward. If he has the conditions, of course. This is one scenario. Let me give you another scenario where this might happen. This mother or father come and tell their son or their daughter, hey, you're in charge of this, you're in charge of that. So by the way, what's going on with the life of this person? Because I know they share it with you. I know they tell you, why don't you tell me what's going on with the life of this person? As we would say, why don't you share the tea with me, yes? Why don't you share a little bit of that, spill the beans a little bit, yeah? So what's going on with their family? Mother, father, I have responsibility. People share things with me, but I have a role to play. I'm your mother. I'm telling you to tell me. No, I cannot obey these teachings. That's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, after speaking of the high status that parents have, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَإِن جَاهَدَاكَ أَن تُشْرِكَ بِي مَا لَيْسَ لَكَ بِهِ عِلْمٍ. If they come to you and now they are trying to act like God, they're trying to come and tell you to do things that I told you not to. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, فَلَا تُطِعْهُمَا. So don't obey them. And then here's the kicker. The moment Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, even if they ask you for something haram, do not obey them. Immediately afterwards, He said, but treat them well. What does that mean? That means even if you have to tell no to your parents, you have to say it in the most beautiful possible way. I'm so sorry. I can't do this. So I'm your mother, I'm your father, you have to do it. Say, I'm so sorry, I know. I apologize. This one I can't do. This is the approach we take with our parents. Maybe a mother or father, they come, they say, you're going to have this wedding. Your wedding has to be done in this particular way. This groom has to come in front of all of the women, none of which are wearing hijab. This groom wants to hold on to his faith. He wants to act on his faith. He says, no, mother, I can't do this one. I'm your mother, I'm telling you, she says. He's supposed to say, I'm so sorry, I can't do this one. I can do a bunch of other customs. You know those other customs that are a little weird? I can do any of those. Any non-haram customs I can do for you. Anything else I can do for you. I just can't do the haram ones. This is the approach that we need to take. But let me say this last line, inshallah, we'll wrap up, brothers and sisters. Having said all of this, brothers and sisters, of those important lessons in life is this. Try your best, try your best, try your best to have the best possible relationship with your parents. Even if they're difficult, try to get along. You know why? Because of this. Because the people who grow old and they lose their parents, the one who had good relationships with their parents even regret it. Let alone the ones who had bad relationships with their parents. One of the regrets that people have in life when they lose their parents, even the ones who spent time with their parents, even the ones who had good relationship with their parents, even the ones who would go and see them often, who had a good relationship, even they say, I wish I had spent more time. Even they say, I regret not having done enough while they were alive. So imagine what that regret is going to be like if now I don't make an effort to have a good relationship with them. They leave this world and I have a bad relationship with them. God forbid the last time they had a conversation with me was a conversation where I shut the door on them. This might become a regret of a lifetime. You don't want to be in that position. I know some parents can be difficult, trust me. But try your best. Then, inshallah, you can have an amazing bond between yourself and your parents. A bond that nothing else will come close to, brothers and sisters. You might say, my spouse, the bond you have with your spouse is a different nature. You don't have to compare it with this. It's a different nature. The bond you have with your parents is also a different nature. You will not experience anything like the bond that your parents have with you and that you have with your parents. And this is why, brothers and sisters, the masa'ib of tonight and the calamity of tonight is such a difficult masa'ib. It is such a difficult calamity for our beloved Imam. Why? Because our beloved Imam on a night like this is losing such a son that he loved so much. Sallallahu alayka ya Aba Abdullah. Sallallahu alayka ya ibn Rasulillah. Brothers and sisters, the masa'ib of Ali al-Akbar is one of the most difficult to get through. What did this masa'ib do to the heart of Hussein? What did it do to the feelings and the emotions of Hussein? What pain did Hussein go through when Ali al-Akbar was standing in front of him? And he knew in a couple hours, in a couple minutes, Ali al-Akbar will be in the plains of Karbala, his body covered in blood. What happened to the heart of this father? It was so difficult for Hussein. It was so painful for Hussein. The narration says on the 10th of Muharram, after the companions went to the battlefield, then all of a sudden these relatives started looking at each other. They said, now we have the opportunity to go and sacrifice our life for our uncle Hussein. But the narration says before any of them could come to the tents, Ali al-Akbar all of a sudden made his way to the tents. And Hussein saw Ali al-Akbar. I don't know what happened to Hussein in those moments when he saw his son coming to the front of the tent. And the narration says Ali began speaking to his father. فَاسْتَأْذَنَ أَبَاهُ فَأَذِنَ لَهُ. He said, go Ali, don't stand in front of me. This is unbearable pain. I cannot take this pain, oh Ali. He quickly gave him permission, but with one condition. He said, oh Ali, if you're going to go to the battlefield, if you're going to tear apart my heart like this, if you're going to put pain and agony in my heart, at least go to the tent of the women and children and say your farewell to them. The narration says Ali came to the tent of the women and the children, and this words in the books of history tears your heart apart. It burns my heart. The narration says when he came into the tent, everyone gathered around Ali al-Akbar. Some of the children began pulling on the clothes of Ali. Allah. فَأَحَتْنَا بِهِ وَتَعَلَّقْنَا بِأَطْرَافِهِ. They started to pull on the clothes of their uncle Ali. Our brother Ali, our uncle Ali, don't go. Don't leave us here in the middle of this desert. These women and children, they looked at Ali, they looked at Ali al-Akbar, they looked at Abu al-Fadl Abbas. They said, we have safety as long as these individuals are there. Now they're about to lose one of those special individuals. The narration says he went one by one, saying his farewell to these women and children. Some of them said, oh Ali, return us back to Medina. Why did you bring us here in the middle of nowhere? Irham ghurbatana, have mercy on our loneliness. But what can Ali do in these moments? The narration says he got on his horse. In front of Ali, a whole ocean of an army. And you know who came to the front of the tent? His father Hussein. His father Hussein came to the front of the tent. And Ali al-Akbar is strong in these moments. Ali al-Akbar is ferocious in these moments. He's about to go towards an army, but you know who cannot hold it together anymore? It's his father Hussein, his old father. And the narration says Hussein looked at his son from far away. فَنَذَرَ نَذْرَةَ آيَسٍ مِّنْ. He looked at his son, but in that look, there was no more hope. He knew Ali would go, and these would be his final moments. This son that he's brought up with so much difficulty and pain, this beautiful son of his, is going to go into this army of an ocean. The narration says the Imam raised his hands. He said, Allahumma ashhad, oh Allah, you bear witness. You know, on the 10th of Muharram, anytime things became too difficult for Hussein, he raised his hands to Allah. He raised his hands to Allah. He said, oh Allah, you can see this is too much for me. Allahumma ashhad faqad baraza ilayhim ghulam. Now I've sent the one who looks just like the messenger of Allah. He walks just like the messenger of Allah. Wa kunna idha ishtaqna ila rasulillah nadharna ilayhi. Whenever we miss the messenger of Allah, I used to look at my son Ali. This is the one I'm sending now to the battlefield. He called out, he said, Ya Umar ibn Sa'ad, qata'a Allahu rahimak kama qata'ata rahimi. Oh Umar ibn Sa'ad, I hope you feel the pain that I'm feeling in these moments. The narration says Ali al-Akbar went to the battlefield. He fought bravely. He killed more than anyone else on that day outside of Abu al-Fadl Abbas. But all of a sudden they saw Ali is coming back to the tent only to burn the hearts of his father more. He came to the tent of his father. He said, Father, ثِقْلُ الْحَدِيدِ قَدْ أَجْهَدَنِي. You know what's happening, my father? I want to fight for you. I want to defend these women and children. But I'm thirsty. Is there a little bit of water in these tents? Is there a little bit of water I can have? And Hussein said, Ali, don't do this to my heart. Go back to the battlefield. Soon you will see your grandfather. He will quench your thirst. Oh Ali, I have nothing to give to you. Ali went back to the battlefield. He fought and he fought until they struck Ali on the head. And he fell down from the horse and he called out, Ya Abata, my father. And Hussein came running, but it was too late. And Hussein sat beside the body when the dust finally settled. And the enemy said, we saw a father sitting beside the body of his son. And they say all we could hear in those moments was Hussein turning to his son and he kept saying, Ya Ali, ala dunya ba'dak la'afa. I don't want this world after you. I don't want to be alive after you. We saw Hussein break down in front of our eyes. ألا لعنة الله على القوم الظالمين. وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون. Let us take our hearts to the city of Karbala, offer our salams to our beloved Imam. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك. عليك مني جميعا سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار، ولا جعله الله آخر العهد مني لزيارتكم. Everyone. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين. One more time. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. رحم الله من قرأ سورة الفاتحة مع الصلوات على محمد وآل محمد.